glazed donut look you've got, but not the glazed donut look you want.
The unfunny joke you've got, but not the unfunny joke you want.
Torn, because birthing is an intense process that should be depicted so everyone understands how much damage it does to a woman's body.
Let me stop you right there. You're about to sin the show for having birthing scenes that are much more accurate than the majority of birthing scenes in movies and TV shows, which is stupid for very obvious reasons.
Walk.
Writers felt that since all the walking in the show had been painful to watch, they might as well double down and make us watch actual painful walking.
This sin is yet another one that implies this show is boring, which, as always, is incorrect and gets the customary 1,000 sins.
It is a privilege to be amongst the first to congratulate you.
Delaying a woman who is clearly in severe pain to grandstand and somehow make this pregnancy about you. Fucking Lord Caswell.
Discount Jeremy points things out on the screen cliche.
Princess?
Sir Kristen is not only alive, but was also allowed to keep his job. Last episode, he smashed a guy's head and then fled the scene, and somehow that was all explained to the satisfaction of the king. Even if this is due to the ever-present incompetence of Viserys, at least give us a scene where the other members of the Kingsguard talk about how he's a loose cannon and none of them wants to be his partner.
Jesus, what the hell is wrong with you? You still somehow don't understand the subterfuge in this show. Kristen was spared because the nobility, including the king, knows that something isn't right with him and they don't want to risk whatever it is servicing. It's not difficult to understand.
What happy news this morning.
While the prevailing wisdom is that Viserys has been dead for at least a couple of episodes now, the show continues to act like he's surviving and not decomposing.
No, the show explicitly shows him decomposing. Notice how in this very scene he's missing an arm? What did you think that was from? A birth defect that didn't appear until several decades after his birth?
Sturdy. You will make a fearsome knight.
Referring to a newborn baby as sturdy. Also pigeonholing this baby into the job of a knight. Maybe he'll grow up and want to go into show business as a bard. There's this really successful guy named Jaskier who... Wait, what show am I saying again?
Based on how many terrible jokes he makes, I think this was meant to be funny. But the issue is that it wasn't funny and it was stupid, so sin it I shall.
Does the babe have a name yet? Well, we haven't spoken.
Joffrey.
Laenor did not birth or even help make this baby, yet he blurts out the first name that comes to mind without consulting his wife. This is how kids end up with ridiculous names like Optimus or Daenerys or Aaron. Can you even imagine going through life with a name like Aaron? What does the second A even do?
Again, that was an unfunny joke. But more importantly, you are, yet again, ignoring a character's characterization.
It's an unusual name for a Valerian.
Oh, shut up. Your name's Alicent.
Alicent kinda has a nifty ring to it, actually. Also, Aaron telling someone to shut up? With all the horrible jokes and ignorant stupidity you shove down your audience's throat, you don't have the right to say that to anyone.
I think I called the midwife a c***.
Calling your wife a c***. Okay, so I don't really know what a midwife is, but I presume they deserve some respect.
Wait, was that a joke? Either way, it's a sin, because if it was a joke, the sin is for it not being funny, and if it wasn't a joke, the sin is for him being so ignorant that he doesn't know what a midwife is.
Do keep trying, Selena. Sooner or later you may get one who looks like you.
If you're going to Mori without an envelope and dramatic music, you could at least say, "You are not the father."
Discount Jeremy makes a pop culture reference that isn't a sin of the episode cliche.
Once they're fully bound to you, they will refuse to take instruction from any other.
Exposplaining Dragon's position.
Hold on. He's sinning exposition while also ignoring the characterization of Rhaenyra and Alicent's respective children. Not only is this exposition necessary, but so is the characterization. I'm telling you right now, if he sins these characters for him not understanding them in the future, I'm giving him 10,000 sins for ignoring this scene right here.
Overcooking your Shevin.
Making an unfunny joke.
I initially wanted to give this scene a sin for doing that thing they do when they make it so I can't see shit. But then when the dragon lights the pit of flame and we get that contrast, I was like, whoa, that is really freaking cool. I have to remove one here. But then I remembered the time when they made that whole episode I couldn't see shit, and I decided I was still mad about that. And yes, I know that episode was in Game of Thrones, but House of the Dragon, being the firstborn child and rightful heir, must now shoulder the responsibility.
No, it really doesn't have to do that. You're yet again sinning a different show for being horseshit, while you're supposed to be sinning this show for being amazing. Yeah, I know it doesn't really make sense, but I don't make the rules.
You'll have to close an eye.
I'm sorry, are you doing foreshadowing? If so, it needs to be in the form of something like a burnt teddy bear floating in a swimming pool. You can't just outright say stuff that'll happen in the future. That'd be like me saying, I'm going to sin more of Alicent's behavior.
Jesus Christ, so it's a rule now that foreshadowing can't be done through dialogue? Do you guys just come up with the most arbitrary garbage and call it a day? Wait, I already know the answer to that question.
Nature is a thing of mysterious works.
Viserys tries to pull a nature, how does it work? As if he's talking about something truly mysterious, like magnets.
And the sin here is Oh, it was supposed to be funny? That's embarrassing.
Did you witness the act itself?
No, Allison, because that'd be weird.
Unfunny joke is unfunny.
All the characters in this show have either been aged up or flat out recast, and somehow in that process, the production team managed to make Sir Kristen look younger.
Hey, that's not unrealistic at all. Some of us white boys age like fine wine. Just look at Paul Rudd.
She flaunts the privilege of her inheritance without shame.
As much as I love watching Allison and Kristen commiserate about their mutual hate for Rhaenyra, no, wait, I hate it. The show hasn't earned this. All they did was show the two of them talking a couple times in the last episode and tried to play that off as enough evidence to justify how this partnership blossomed off screen.
Unsurprisingly, you're wrong yet again. The show did earn this by going through Kristen's character arc of falling in love with Rhaenyra, getting rejected, and therefore becoming disenfranchised with the royal family and becoming attached to Alicent by default as a result of his confession to her. In other words, he's loyal to her because he has no choice. She knows his secret, and his whole character arc up to this point has been centered around his fallout with Rhaenyra.
The Princess Rhaenyra is brazen and relentless.
I know, right? It's almost like she beat a man to death during her wedding feast. Oh wait, that was you, Sir Kristen. You're 5 cents for throwing stones in the glass house of the dragon.
Sinning hypocrisy? That's hypocritical.
Also, it's funny that out of all the things the writers skipped with time jumps, the one thing they couldn't skip was Aegon pleasuring himself out a window. Riveting character development.
Of course, this one tiny action isn't meant to be character development. Showing him beating his meat is just setting the scene. Regardless, you complained about the time skip skipping over important stuff, but that's dumb because if the show skipped over it, then it clearly wasn't that important. And besides, we've already gotten some character development from the scene in the Dragon Pit earlier. I told you this would happen.
Whose idea was it?
I think it's pretty obvious. You caught him with his hand on the trigger. Oh, you're talking about the little piggy dragon. That doesn't sound much better, but you know what I mean. Either way, the sin here, as always, is parents.
A whole bunch of bullshit.
Edmund is your brother. Oh, he's a
I can't tell if I just enjoyed this show or if I'm going delirious because of all the walkie-talkie, stabby, rinse and repeat nonsense in every episode, but it still gets a sin for only being a momentary respite.
He yet again claimed that this show isn't very good, which is still just as incorrect as the first time he did it. Also, that fake-ass laugh at the beginning of The Sin.
You are nearly a man grown. How is it that you can be so short-sighted?
Well, considering you walked in on him working his gherkin, maybe you should consider that he's quite clearly at the age where his interests do not goeth beyond his man grown.
Do your fans honestly find it entertaining when you flat out ignore characterization? The show is portraying a very realistic character in Alicent here, yet you're ignoring it for the sake of a dumb sin.
You are the challenge!
Allison is right that the boy she just walked in on, in hand, is a challenge. But as far as the story goes, we've seen little to suggest that he is the challenge. And getting through episode after episode of characters refusing to see what is obvious to the audience has become my challenge.
Oh my god, this is yet more evidence that Discount Jeremy has the mindset of a 10-year-old. Just because a character said something doesn't make that thing objectively correct. Alicent is a flawed character, which is why she is so interesting. Also, he yet again implied that the show isn't good, so you know what that means.
Now and then it feels like the show suddenly remembers these characters have dragons. It's a lot of fun to watch, but it's also gratuitous, kind of like all the plane thrusting going on in the opening sequence of Tom Cruise Maverick.
Discount Jeremy makes a pop culture reference that isn't a sin of the episode cliche. Also, what makes the dragons gratuitous? The show hasn't spent nearly as much time sucking its own dragon dick as the final few seasons of Game of Thrones did, and it just really isn't gratuitous at all.
Now without responsibility, the political scheming, the endless shifting of loyalties and succession is none of ours.
Over the past 10 years, it seems Damon may have acquired a semblance of care for family and future, which makes it a shame that this episode only skims the surface of this potential character development. And for all I know, in the next episode, it'll be 8 years later, and Damon will be a priest who does traveling Scrabble tournaments, and the show will be like, it happened, f*** you, deal with it.
And he continues to complain about the time skip. Look, dude, this complaint would be legitimate if it wasn't total bullshit. Damon always valued family and always hated politics, so your claim that he developed those characteristics over the 10-year period is a lie, which topples the logic of this entire sin.
At my end, I want to die a dragon rider's death.
What exactly is a dragon rider's death? I'm assuming it has something to do with being eaten, falling from a great height, or being burned alive. And before you suggest I read the book, let me be the first to welcome you to TVSins, where we sin what's on screen without knowing what's on the page. Stick around. We're getting a petting zoo soon.
Admits that his channel is centered around their ignorance and stupidity, keeps on going at the same rate. Also, a dragon rider's death is a very obvious thing that anyone with half a functioning brain cell should be able to pick up from context. It's a glorious and honorable death. That's it.
Soften your knees. Feet light.
Are these instructions supposed to mean something relevant to sword fighting or anything outside the transmutation of matter?
Yes.
Also, why is Sir Kristen allowed to work with kids or anywhere within 100 yards of a school? Again, I'm only asking because he bludgeoned a man to death.
Have you not seen a single episode of this show? That really isn't a problem at all. I mean, he could have become a Catholic priest and they would probably still let him be around kids.
Also, he may be the swordsman this series deserves, but he is not the Serial Pharrell we need right now.
Discount Jeremy references Game of Thrones in a House of the Dragon video Ex Machina.
The show asks us to believe that Lord Strong ignores the clear issue of Sir Harwin being around Rhaenyra's children, even though this error in judgment goes against his character previously being presented as smart and calculating. I don't mind drama, but I do mind unnecessary dumb drama mixing in with the already existing vast quantities of regular drama.
What Lord Strong is doing here is called not drawing attention to the problem. If he were to force his son away from his grandchildren, it would raise questions as to why he's not allowed to be with them. Not to mention the fact that Lord Strong is afraid his son would still do everything he could to spend time with his kids even if that happened. This actually falls right in line with his character being smart, and this sin falls right in line with you being dumb.
Stay on the attack!
Encouraging child abuse because you're still mad about your ex-girlfriend's new side piece. Let it go, dude. It's been some number of years. I'd have a more precise number for you, but the time skips have damaged my personal chronometer calibration beyond repair.
Discount Jeremy bitches about the time skip Ex Machina. Also, he just sinned a character for staying in character.
Most men would only have that kind of devotion toward a cousin, or a brother, or a son.
Losing your temper and resorting to violence because the plot needs it, and not because we know this to be true for your character. We send Sir Kristen for it, and you bet we'll do the same for Sir Strong.
Jesus Christ, you're an idiot. If the show is showing us the character doing this, then it clearly means it does fit his character.
You have laid us open to accusations of an uglier treachery.
And what treachery is that?
All right, how strong, now with some skin in the game. And Sir Harwin seems like he could be a formidable ally to Rhaenyra's cause. Hold on, am I starting to care about a character? I think I might be starting to care about a character. Oh boy, I can't wait to see where this goes.
If you would just stop bitching about everything, then you would be able to see that the story here is absolutely phenomenal, and your complaints are really only serving to show us your stupidity and juvenile mindset in the context of television criticism. Seriously, what you're doing right now is sitting the show for a character you like getting killed when that character's death fuels the future events surrounding other, more interesting characters.
Milk swells the breast.
Openly discussing your wife's bosom and lactation with another man to show the audience that you're a drunken asshole, and not because we have any proof that Carl doesn't know how boobs work.
Pointing things out on the screen.
War is afoot again in the Stepstones, Rhaenyra.
Laenor shouldn't be excited about going back to the Stepstones, but I understand exactly why he wants to go. I don't want to be here anymore either. It's almost like making a world that the characters dislike as much as the audience was a bad idea.
Oh, I'm sorry, but the answer we were looking for was a world that the audience absolutely loves based on this show's ratings. Oh well, you get another 1,000 sins for incorrectly implying that this show is bad.
Giant, they say, who dyes his beard purple and wears women's frocks.
I'm not sure what kind, but this feels phobic. And you live in a world with dragons. How is that the weirdest thing you've heard today?
As the show is implying, Laenor has seen a lot of dragons, but not a lot of giants. I genuinely think a 12-year-old could understand this show better than you.
For 10 years, you have indulged yourself at court. Bought the finest horses. Drunk the rarest of wines. The lustiest boys.
Writers thought it'd be fun to outline a very colorful decade in Laenor's life, but only show us all the sad and depressing parts.
Yes, because those other parts are not necessary to the story being told, which is much more interesting than the stuff they skipped.
You are commanded to remain in King's Landing and at my side.
Wait, you can do that? Does that actually work? I feel like Cersei should have just done the same to Jaime in season 8. And now I'm thinking about Go Throne's awful conclusion again. So here's a sin for making me think of season 8.
Discount Jeremy references Game of Thrones in a House of the Dragon video Ex Machina.
He wants you and Father and Baelor, because you have dragons. There is more than one way to bind yourself to a dragon.
I think the lesson here should have been that you're still valuable even if you don't have a dragon. But what do I know? I'm not the blood of old Valeria.
Misunderstanding the world that the show has created? Yeah, that seems on par for Discount Jeremy.
And now I ride Vhagar, the largest in the world.
Bragging about your huge dragon to your daughter who still doesn't have one.
Pointing things out on the screen.
Wasting booze. If you don't like the alcohol, don't drink it, but don't waste it. There are desperate skeletons atop grandfather clocks who would love to have that booze.
As the show has shown us, Daemon would not care about something like this. So yet again, this sin is dumb and pointless.
It is Lord Blackwood's contention, therefore, that the Brackens move the boundary stones.
And now, as a gesture of ill will, the show will continue its downward trajectory and give us what no one was waiting for, a riveting discussion about a land dispute followed by more indecision regarding what to do about the stepstones. Of course, the entire conversation serves mostly as a battleground for Rhaenyra and Alicent to try and best each other at politicking. But it's so dull, I'm beginning to wish I hadn't spent so much time complaining about Sir Criston killing that guy. Which was still dumb, by the way.
No, it wasn't, but regardless, he yet again claimed that the show is boring, which it isn't.
May do as you wish, husband, when I am cold in my grave.
It is very confusing as to how much power Alicent has by law and how much is just due to Viserys having no backbone. Literally and metaphorically. I think it may have fallen out of his ass. The point is, her influence seems to change and become greater with each episode, and we're just supposed to accept it as a matter of fact when it raises relevant questions about how anything works in this world.
Jesus Christ, your stupidity baffles me. He's complaining about a character gaining power over time. Yes, Aaron, people who make political maneuvers and play the game do tend to gain power when they do it well. That's something you can observe not only in this show, but also in real-world history, meaning that it's clearly not a sin.
I have come to resign my position as Hand of the King.
I cannot accept this.
You can't reject a resignation, Viserys. If someone quits, they quit. If a boss could just decline a resignation and send their worker back out on the floor, I'd still be working at Chuck E. Cheese being spit on and kicked by little children.
So, in your mind, a medieval king has the same amount of power as a current-day manager? Okay, cool. And what's your IQ?
Larys releases some prisoners here, which is something I didn't know he had the power to do, and cuts out their tongues so they can't talk about the clandestine activities he's about to put them up to, which is gross, but fair, I suppose. However, the show glosses over who the people doing the cutting are and how he plans to keep them quiet. Is there a third set of people who cut out their tongues? If so, he'd surely have to keep them quiet too. Where would the tongue cutting stop?
The show has shown us that Larys has connections within King's Landing, meaning that he has men who are loyal to him. These men are the ones cutting out the tongues. Now, you might ask why he didn't send them to kill Lord Strong, and the answer to that is obvious. These prisoners are expendable. They have no value outside of this one mission for Lord Larys.
Must push now, my lady!
Mansplaining.
Wait, so delivering a baby and therefore telling the mother what to do in order to successfully deliver the baby is now considered mansplaining? How do people actually find this shit entertaining?
I've reached the limit of my art.
Really? Because the limit of your art seems to be staring at the baby door and yelling, push.
Delivering babies? Yes, that is his art. What confuses me is why he gave us in here for absolutely nothing.
I'm not saying that Lena wasn't capable of moving so quickly that Daemon couldn't catch up to her before she got all the way outside and over to Vhagar. What I am saying is that Daemon might be phoning in this foot chase just so the episode could end with the multiple fire-related deaths of characters the show has barely attempted to make us care about.
As the episode implies, Lena had a head start on Daemon, who wasn't moving with a lot of purpose because he didn't know what she was going to do.
Lena, bring him.
These two have been navigating the ups and downs of their sham marriage for 10 years, and in the end, we can still see that on some level they care for each other. This relationship is just one more example of great shit we missed in the time jump.
Dude, this shit is so funny to me. He says that we can tell they care about each other here and how that's a great aspect of their relationship, but then says we missed it because of the time jump. Which one is it? Does the episode show us their care for each other, or did we miss it? It can't be both.
All of Larys' men wear a bug on their bonnets because the best way to get away with secretly murdering your father and brother is by giving your henchmen the same brooch that is attached to your cane. As we all know, the success of such ventures really comes down to branding.
I'm, of course, not saying it's a perfect plan or anything, but I am saying that it's not a sin because it fits Larys' character so well. The brooches are meant to give the ex-prisoners a sense of pride in their task, which would motivate them to complete their mission instead of simply running away. Furthermore, it throws salt in the wound for Lord Strong in the event that he were to see one of the brooches.
I love this show, but it needs to sort out these pacing issues and give the characters room to breathe. In one episode, you introduced us to the father of Rhaenyra's children, gave him enough depth to be interesting, and then immediately killed him off. HBO will probably give you as many seasons as you need. Slow down.
Dude, you're a professional TV critic who is complaining about a show not focusing on things that are completely irrelevant to the story being told.
You may know what is the right thing to be done, but love stays the hand.
Show makes a valiant attempt to amp up the drama with this creepy monologue talking about not being able to do what is necessary because of the love you have for your children. The problem with this logic is that all of the characters in this show are terrible parents.
I mean, by the contemporary standard of the time period, they really aren't as bad as you seem to think. And besides, just because they're shitty parents doesn't mean they don't love their children.
Love is a downfall.
I know they filmed a scene with Daemon hugging his children. A screenshot was shared on social media before the episode aired. So why did you cut it? It would have been a great character moment to reveal the shred of humanity we didn't believe Daemon had in him.
Jesus, you finally said something good. It took you 6 videos to make one good sin. It's been an exhausting journey, and honestly, I'm very tempted to add a sin for this, but I'm in a good mood today, so I will reward you. Partially because I have a feeling this won't happen again for a very long time.
You've heard the stories of Harrenhal, Your Grace. It's built in hubris by Harren the Black as a monument to his own greatness.
Not content with all his monologuing, Larry then decides to open the robes of history, nakedly spouting knowledge like some sort of expositionist.
Why does he complain about exposition when it's a key aspect of TV shows? Without exposition, we wouldn't have the proper knowledge to understand the world within the show.